It's time for Lefties Losing It. And I have some sad news for the lefties watching. Get ready to lose it because it seems President Trump's foreign approval rating is up like a rocket. Take it away, CNN.
Up like a rocket. We're talking about 43% now. That's an 8-point rise. On the net approval rating, we're talking about a double-digit rise. The American people like much more of what they're seeing from Donald Trump in foreign policy in term 2 than they did in term number 1.
Up like a rocket, but 43% doesn't seem that great, Harry. How does that compare to other recent presidents, I wonder?
All right, 21st century foreign policy approval rating at this point in term 2. George W. Bush was down at 36%. Barack Obama was at 37%. Look at this. Donald Trump actually leads the pack at 43%. Donald Trump has a higher foreign policy approval rating at this point in a second term than any other president who served their entire second term in the 21st century. This is something I think Donald Trump really likes to look at because the bottom line is this. Presidents like to build their legacies off of foreign policy.
It's almost over, lefties. I know this is hard to watch. The man you misrepresented as a unique threat to world peace, the man who was going to trigger World War III, Donald Trump, is actually a peacemaker and one whose foreign policy achievements have seen him create a powerful legacy.
Net approval rating, Israel-Hamas conflict. Look at this. Joe Biden was 37 points below water by the end of his presidency. Way down there. Look at Donald Trump. Actually in the positive area. Look at this. A +3 net approval rating. The American people liked what Trump was able to do between the Israelis and Hamas. And that, I think, is a large part of the reason why his foreign policy is at the apex compared to other two-term presidents this century.
Again, I apologise to the lefties seeing this. I know that hurt. Hopefully this next clip makes you feel better. We're going to have a look at what's happening closer to home here in Australia. Here is Hannah Ferrugia talking to a young woman about the sanctity of life.
I think that every woman and every person with a vagina and a uterus should have rights to their own body.
I agree that bodily autonomy is really important. But what if there's two bodies? That's what a pregnancy is.
Well, it's kind of actually like a virus that's leeching off you.
It's not a virus because definitionally it's actually the same species. Your body is actually made to protect the baby inside your womb, not destroy it.
If I am a drug addict and I have alcoholism and that baby's going to come out really horrible and not have a good life and live really would you want that child to have to live through that?
Okay, moving along. You know what I love about the left is just how compassionate and selfless they are, and they're so rational too, joyful souls. I mean, is there a better example of all that than this next woman?
Oh, you shouldn't wish death upon any person, no matter what side they're on. That. Charlie Kirk was a Nazi. He was a Nazi. And you know what kind of Nazi is the best Nazi? A dead one. Thank God that stain of a person is no longer in this world. And may his hell be being confronted by every single marginalized person that he hurt. That is what is wrong with you. That does not make me a bad person.
Oh, darling, it does make you a bad person. It makes you a vile, hate-filled lunatic. Can you believe these lying lowlives are still celebrating Charlie's murder? What's that line? When people show you who they are, believe them. Now, imagine how far left you must be when even leftist commentator and activist Van Jones is not left enough for you. Watch these climate activists attack the CNN favourite, not about his environmental credentials, but over Gaza.
That's a lot of people.
I would like to provide a toast to Van Jones, a man who started out as a racial justice advocate and is now a stooge for corporate media and a shill for the Israeli government.
Oh, he wasn't the only plant in the crowd. Van was in for a rough night.
I moved to Colorado when I was 10 months old.
Oh, there was more of them. Looks like a mob called Climate Defiance really spent up big to hear Van speak or to shout him down.
You can't be children! You can't beat children in Denver! Get out!
I got a chance to spend a great deal of time in the Holy Land. I got a chance to spend time in Gaza.
Thank you, JSF, for feeding our community. You, Van Jones, for selling out. You talk about food security. Gazans are starving. They're starving. Shut the Gazans are starving. Gazans are starving.
That escalated quickly. Joining me now is political advisor and commentator CJ Pearson. CJ, we'll start with the Epstein files and with President Donald Trump giving an ABC reporter an absolute dressing down. This is Mary Bruce. And his issue here seems to be that they're all suddenly obsessed with Epstein and not what asking the president thinks are the pertinent questions.
You could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched up. Somebody psychs you over at ABC. They're going to psych it. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter. As far as the Epstein files is, I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert. But I guess I turned out to be right. But you know who does have? Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, who ran Harvard, was with him every single night, every single weekend. They lived together. They went to his island many times. I never did. Andrew Weissman, I hear. All these guys were friends of his. You don't even talk about those people. You just keep going on the Epstein files. And what the Epstein is a Democrat hoax to try and get me not to be able to talk about the $21 trillion that I talked about today. It's a hoax. Now, I just got a little report, and I put it in my pocket, of all the money that he's given to Democrats.
CJ, it's not a hoax, but perhaps trying to tie Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein is a hoax, a Democrat hoax, but the Epstein files are very much real.
Yeah, they definitely are. But, what we're looking at here and what I'm seeing is that there are no victims of Jeffrey Epstein who've come out and accused President Trump of any wrongdoing. And I think if that's going to be indicative of anything, I think that is actually the most interesting thing about all of this. The Democrats didn't care about these Epstein files until they could weaponize it against the president. Never called on President Biden to release these files, never called on any Democrats to release these files. But now all of a sudden, when they believe it's some type of political football, which I believe is completely dehumanizing to the actual victims of Jeffrey Epstein's, terrible, vile actions, now they feel as if it's something that they should all of a sudden be so passionate about. Here's the deal. I think victims of sexual abuse, especially children, deserve justice. Doesn't matter if they are Republican, Democrat, or what administration it may be. But to accuse this of being some type of President Trump problem is divorced from reality.
Well, Jeffrey Epstein, Donald Trump named some names there, and Jeffrey Epstein's links to Democrats are well established. He was a committed Democrat, a prolific Democrat donor. Let's hear from James Comer here, who spoke about Jeffrey Epstein's links with Democrat politicians, including Hakeem Jeffries, who was soliciting money from Epstein as late as 2013.
Colleagues' coordination with Epstein. Another email shows Democrat fundraisers invited Epstein to an event or to meet privately with Hakeem Jeffries as part of their 2013 effort to win a majority. So Hakeem Jeffries' campaign solicited money from Jeffrey Epstein. That's what we found in the last document batch. The files underscore why former President Trump must appear for his deposition. We've subpoenaed him. To date, the Democrats have done nothing to help us secure his appearance. I support full transparency. The Oversight Committee will continue to work to get the truth to the American people and to get justice for the victims. That's our goal of this investigation.
CJ, Democrats were even working with Epstein in 2019 during a congressional hearing. One of them was exchanging text messages with Epstein to try to get Donald Trump. These links are many, and yet again, the media seems largely uninterested in investigating them.
largely uninterested because they see that there aren't any ties to actual Republicans in many of these files that have been uncovered. But yet, as these files continue to be released, we see more and more, ties between them and the Democrats, whether it's, Larry Summers, the former president of Harvard University, who served in many Democratic administrations, and also, too, the congresswoman that you mentioned, who was actually texting to Jeffrey Epstein during a congressional hearing. And so, for all these people that, love to talk about so-called Russian collusion, let's talk about pedophile collusion, because that's exactly what they were engaging in when they were working hand in hand with Jeffrey Epstein to undermine President Trump. If you read the emails that have been released, it's quite clear that Jeffrey Epstein was not a fan of the president. And as President Trump has made clear, he was not a fan of Jeffrey Epstein. And so I think that the transparency that they're calling for, I hope that it doesn't know any political, qualifications, because it seems as if there's a lot more discussion matter, subject matter here to be had on the Democrat side than on the Republican side here.
CJ, you are right about the animosity between Epstein and Trump. Epstein certainly hated Donald Trump. That much is clear. And I don't think it was just because Epstein was a Democrat and a Democrat donor. Donald Trump banned him from Mar-a-Lago before he was even facing any charges. And Michael Wolff revealed that Epstein suspected Donald Trump was behind him being reported to authorities. And that, of course, began his legal troubles. And if you read those emails, it is very clear that Jeffrey Epstein hated Donald Trump and wanted to see him fail.
Yeah, it's incredibly clear now that we've seen all of this. And so I think at the end of the day, President Trump has called for accountability in every which way for this issue. Republicans have joined him in doing so. There is no room, for any of this in our country. And I think that even with Jeffrey Epstein's, passing, the victims of his terrible, heinous crimes deserve justice. And President Trump has joined folks in calling for that. He's directed the DOJ to investigate his links to many prominent people in our country who for a long time probably felt as if they would escape accountability because of their name, because of their wealth, because of their prominence. He says that there is no, again, excuse for that sort of thing in this country. And God bless him for it. He should continue to fight for that. And he has shown a willingness and a resolve to continue to do so.
Now, talking about large amounts of data being released, we are learning plenty more about Thomas Crooks, the man who tried to assassinate Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. Firstly, it was due to Tucker Carlson's investigation. And for the first time after that, we really got an idea of Crooks's online footprint, his radicalisation, his far-left allegiances, what he thought and believed, and even his they-them pronouns and perhaps involvement in furry culture. And then the FBI, CJ, did a big release of information as well. What more do we know about this? Is there an investigation that's ongoing to see if he had any sort of help or if there was anyone else complicit in this assassination attempt? Because it just seems very odd that this information only came to light after Tucker Carlson had his big expose.
There appears to be an ongoing investigation, but what we do need more of is an ongoing, flow of answers about this individual and his background and what led him to do this. Because I think there are a lot more questions and answers than there are answers right now. And so I think the American people obviously, very clearly want answers about this. This man tried to assassinate the president of the United States. And I think that he needs to, we want to know why. Did he work with anyone? Did he work with any foreign actors? All of these questions are valid and very, very real. And so, hopefully we'll get those answers. Hopefully Cash Patel is on that. But I think that the American people's curiosity about this or their suspicion surrounding this is not going to change unless there is more transparency around this investigation, what is soon to come to light.
Now, President Trump hosted perhaps the world's biggest sporting star, Cristiano Ronaldo, at the White House, and he spoke about just how thrilled his son Barron, was by the visit from the soccer star.
My son is a big fan of Ronaldo, wherever Ronaldo is here. We're Ronaldo. And Barron got to meet him, and I think he respects his father a little bit more now, just the fact that I introduced you. So I just want to thank you both for being here. Thank you very much.
CJ, tell me about this visit. Ronaldo has spoken in the past about wanting to meet Donald Trump, and he's got issues that he wants to advocate with the president?
It was incredible. It was two goats walking through the White House at one time. Some people are equating it to a petting zoo at this point, right? It's incredible to see. Two of the greatest that have done what they've done. One of the greatest presidents of my lifetime, the greatest sports, soccer star in my lifetime as well. So it was incredible to see. No surprise that Barron was excited to see them both. Probably definitely gave him some cool dad points with Barron for sure, and I don't blame him for it.
Now, I've got to play you this clip. This has caused some outrage over the last 24 hours or so. And again, it's another clash between President Trump and a member of the media. And just listen to what he says here.
Yeah, is there something incriminating in the file, sir?
Quite piggy. I mean, it's particularly funny because Trump is sensibly proportioned himself. What has been the reaction to those two words?
Well, this is the Maher administration. I think he was just giving her some advice.
Oh, jeez. CJ, that is harsh. Now, let's talk about New York. We're waiting with bated breath for Zohran Mamdani to take over as mayor, and he is assembling quite the team, CJ. This is the woman Mamdani has just endorsed for a New York State Assembly seat in Queens. Her name is Abba Kawas, and here she explains that 9/11 was due to capitalism and racism, white supremacy, and, of course, Islamophobia.
The system of capitalism and racism and white supremacy, etc., have all, and Islamophobia have all been used, to colonize lands, right, to take resources from other people. And so this is like a long trajectory, and we're just seeing the manifestations of that continuation, right, with 9/11. And so a lot of times when people are asking us to respond about, attack, right, if you look back, like, historically, right, a lot of us come from lands that were colonized, lands where wars are being waged.
CJ, she went on to decry America not paying reparations for genocide and colonialism. It just seems unbelievable to me that these sorts of characters are running for office and being elected to office in New York City.
You're right. It's completely unbelievable. But what's also unbelievable is how many times she said "like" in that entire clip. Take a shot every time she says "like." You'll die from alcohol poisoning. It actually would not, be well for you. I think that Mamdani is endorsing people that will carry on his legacy, one of which we have yet to establish. But we know what it will actually have to come to bear, because we've seen that in many socialist countries all throughout the world. They all fail. They all come, to die. And it's unfortunate that he continues to double down on his failed policies, but we knew that to be true. Many people warned that if we elected Zohran Mamdani, or should I say the people of New York elected Zohran Mamdani, that he would try to bring up 1,000 of him. And so I think we need to be assertive about combating that, fighting against it, because if we don't, that's the end of our nation. And so I think that this is a warning call, but I hope more so that's a wake-up call as well for people that are sitting on the sidelines.
CJ, tell me about this new data from the US Department of Agriculture revealing fraud and misuse of SNAP benefits. SNAP stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Food stamps is what most folks know them as. CJ, the scale of this program is crazy. More than 40 million Americans are using food stamps, and many of these, perhaps most of them, are able-bodied, they're capable of working, and yet they require food stamps.
Yeah, Rita, what we also call food stamps here in the States is EBT, but I hope these people were more concerned about getting a JOB. That'd probably be a bit more helpful, right? And I think that it's unfortunate when I see folks like this on TikTok saying, I can't believe that, due to the government shutdown, I won't be able to depend on, so-and-so to fund my, infatuation with jumbo crab legs and exotic dinners. It's like, no, how about you go get a job and pay for it yourself? And here's the deal, in the richest country in the world, one of the most preeminent countries in the world, world. I don't believe that any child should go hungry, but I also believe in ending a cycle of dependence upon the government. The Democrats were very intentional from this, from the beginning about creating this dependency because they believed that if they replace, the role of the father and many such things with the government, that people would always be dependent on the government, so they would never vote against them. And so I think that this is, of course, the type of reality that they, brought to fruition. But we've got to fight back against this. The idea that there is so much scamming and fraud and abuse occurring in the system is disgusting. These are hardworking taxpayer dollars that are being used and abused, and it needs to come to an end.
CJ Pearson, thanks so much for your time tonight.
Good to see you.
Welcome back. Joining me now is celebrity and royal commentator Kinsey Schofield. Kinsey, Netflix has dropped its trailer for Meghan Markle's Christmas special. Let's have a look.
I love the holiday season. It's about finding time to connect with the people we love.
Yeah.
Embracing traditions.
I like this.
The special hits the streaming platform on December 3, Kinsey. I'm not sure I can even hate watch this. It looks just painful.
It does. And of course, this trailer comes on the heels of the royal variety performance at Royal Albert Hall. Pictures dropping of the Princess of Wales and Prince William cuddling with Paddington Bear. Meghan's always there to interrupt great press for the British royal family. But Meghan giving Christmas advice, even though the majority of her own family don't even know her telephone number, is charming. This is not a holiday party. That is a witness protection program. Her Christmas message might start with peace on earth and goodwill to all, but it just doesn't extend to anyone she's actually ever met.
And that was apparent at her wedding, which I pointed out at the time when everyone adored her and they all thought I was being terrible. But other than her mother, there seemed to be really no cousins there, and her siblings, her dad wasn't there, and long-term friends as well. The red flags were there early with that one. Now, let's stick with Meghan. She sat down with Harper's Bazaar for another tell-all interview. Kinsey, for the cover, she went without makeup, it seems. Did she reveal anything interesting?
Of course not. Here are some highlights. Yeah, here are some highlights. Even if there is no one else there, Meghan makes staff announce her in a room as the Duchess of Sussex. I kid you not. And
What?
she pauses mid-interview. No, wait. She pauses mid-interview to take a photo of her own face in the foam of her cappuccino. The article claims that Meghan is an authority on parenting in her friend circle because she uses things like apps. And Meghan drops moments of brilliance like, if you overwork the dough, it's not going to rise. I like to imagine that when Oprah asked her if she was silenced or silenced, that is what she was held back from sharing with the masses.
She has to be announced. Don't just go up past that like it's nothing. People have to announce her official royal titles. Let's not forget she walked away from her duty, so she's got those titles without any sort of work. And yet she uses them to that extent. I doubt Prince William would be using them to that extent.
No, it's just her and the author of this piece that are in this home. And the author of this piece is like, it's just the two of us, but she's announced as the Duchess of Sussex when she walks in. Like, even the author, who is very generous to Meghan throughout this article, is like, that's weird.
It is weird. And Prince Harry is going to be the keynote speaker at a political affairs conference in Canada. Organisers of the event said Harry will bring a powerful message of service and leadership. Kinsey, are they kidding? Again, another one who walked away from his duty to be a full-time celebrity.
Exactly. It's basically pay to play at a Hilton in Toronto. Harry is speaking at a real estate event. This is kind of embarrassing to me. Not only is Harry totally not qualified to talk to a room full of entrepreneurs about leadership or real estate, but they are marketing it like he's a glorified mascot. For the right price, almost 300 pounds, you get access to a rejected prince in a Hilton conference room. I mean, these are the type of events I think the royal family were fearful of when they said no half in, no half in, half out.
Now, Kinsey, we finally have an explanation as to why Wicked co-stars Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo keep touching each other, seem to be obsessed with each other. Ariana appeared on Amy Poehler's Good Hang podcast, and here's the explanation.
You like to hold each other's like hands and be there. It's very sweet.
Yes.
You like to do that with people. Am I wrong?
I do. I am very... I channel a lot of energy through my hands.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'm always holding a hand. I'm always like squeezing a something.
Kinsey, she just sounds weirder. It's not really an explanation in my mind.
No, is that Gavin Newsom's excuse too? Is he channeling a lot of energy through his hands? Because boy, does he do some hand choreography. Yeah, she admitted in the past that her and Cynthia are insufferable and annoying while promoting these movies. So they are aware. But I think you and I were really dying over the finger holding. Remember last junket where she was like holding Cynthia's finger? It's the obnoxious conversations. It's the holding space. It totally distracts from the movie and makes us uninterested in seeing it. I think these two are just too much.
They are, and Ariana seems to be loving Hollywood, though. She appears to be making the switch from pop star to actress, revealing her 2026 Eternal Sunshine tour will be her last hurrah. That's a big statement to be making this early in her career.
I know, but doesn't it give you like flashbacks to Cher? Remember how Cher kept announcing that it was her final tour and it never was? Ariana never gives us specific plans for her upcoming tour, but made it clear that she thinks that this is her final run for the foreseeable future. She explained that exploring projects beyond music has helped her feel more in touch with herself, and she's clearly handsy, and with her creativity. So, I mean, go forth. Good luck. Hopefully you're not as physical with your next co-star.
Or they, I mean, it's weird that two characters like this have found each other, unless it's all an elaborate act, which many people think it is, that two curious characters have found each other in these film interviews. Wow. In fact, there's too much of it. I was going to play some clips this week and there was too many. There was too many. I was overwhelmed. Now, late night host Bill Maher has admitted that he stopped performing stand-up comedy over escalating safety concerns. Have a listen to this.
I don't want to be out there in this country, in this political atmosphere. I could get shot by the left or the right.
Yeah, well, at this
point... it's a good time to not be out there.
That's pretty sad, Kinsey.
It is sad. But he also said safety wasn't the only factor in his decision to step back. He admitted he grew discouraged watching other comedians draw bigger crowds. And he suggests on the show that his weekly presence on HBO's Real Time may be making his stand-up less special. He added that there's a generational shift in the audience as well that might be influencing turnout. But yeah, I think he's having a harder time looking at people like Joe Rogan, who is hilarious, a podcaster, and would draw a much bigger crowd than Bill Maher was. I mean, I really think it's less about the generational gap and more about just what we're into today. And it's Rogan. It's not necessarily Bill Maher.
Now, quickly before you go, text messages have revealed new details about the friendship between Bill Gates and convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein had written to one of Gates's apparent advisors about an opportunity to work together, but his then wife, Melinda, intervened and subsequently banned Bill Gates from contacting him. Kinsey, there was certainly a relationship there over the years.
Yeah, and actually in interviews since then, Melinda has alluded to the fact that his relationship and friendship with Jeffrey Epstein was one of the reasons she wanted out of their marriage. I mean, this was a huge deal to her. She couldn't stand him. But I loved the headline that talked about Epstein's lemon-shaped penis. Let's not brush past that. We have to acknowledge that.
Yes, deformed penis, just like Harvey Weinstein. So those two are Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein. Kinsey Schofield, thank you so much for your time.